up with the gang? What up with the gang? I forgot they're fucking playing music. The door open, so let's get right into it. Uh, the door opened from outside led into what was basically a kill room, a buffer place meant to stop an attack raid raid before it even got started. Bars on the doors, slick walls, a perfect spot to slow an attack, like the spot in a castle before the portico. What? Portico? Portico? I don't fucking know, y'all. But after the mark, we'll we'll fig we will will figured there might be cameras trained on it, but also figured it didn't matter. Jason moved to the second door. This was the building Chris said he'd been brought to with the hood over his face. It was just as he described. Oh, y'all. A short, defensible position so that two doormen could operate separately and help render the normal technologies of a SWAT team useless. Hold on, y'all. Alright, y'all. Will couldn't see from where he was. The room they were in was lit by just a single light bulb, but he had a good feeling that there were holes cut high above them to shoot guns and drop grenades into the fishbowl. Jason turned the second knob and it was unlocked, just like the first time. First, Will and then Jason slid into the room as quietly as they were able. This room was just as Chris had said as well, though much messier. Blood was all over the room. Across the floor, there was a great I mean, there was a great smear of it, as well as several crimson handprints on the floor ahead of the smear, looking as Will as though following and chasing death just led to more of the same. Jason knelt next to the smear, pulled off one glove and squirreled a finger in the mess. Still warm, he murmured to Will, "And do you smell the gas? That's why they still have lights. Must be running a genie the size of my fucking house to keep a goddamn warehouse lit up." Jason walked to the next door looking like he was getting some of his swagger back. Will felt better too. There was pain in his fingers and feet that was almost comforting. Pain meant they couldn't have been too damaged, or at least that's what he was hoping. Jason opened the door even more slowly than had the last two, and Will followed him through it. They were in the real warehouse now, though there wasn't much being stored in it. There were a few pallets of box high in electronics, computers mainly, but also stereo equipment and televisions. Stolen merchandise will imagined. He and Justin hugged close to the stacks and peeked around the last one. There were at least 4 men inside the warehouse with them. 3 of them looked to be MS-13 members. 2 of those were wearing suits, and Will assumed that one of them was the number one to earlier. There was a fourth lying on his side on the cement floor by the others, and there was blood poured around him. Will imagined he was probably the one whose draining life had what inadvertently, I don't fucking know, I never seen that word before, led them there. The last man was Chris. He was sitting on a folding chair, and even though Will couldn't see the cocky expression on his face, he felt quite sure that it was there. Chris was facing away from Will and Jason. The three bangers were facing their way, but cocked away. The man Will assumed was dead was staring at the floor. Jason slid back and began to move around the row of pallets further out of the banger's line of sight and closer to Chris's. Will followed, listening to the men talking. The bangers in dense Latin in dense Latin accents. Chris repeated something that sounded like "How long?" He'd reached the end of the row of pallets, and unless one of the bangers turned out of the bangers, what periphery? I don't know. Oh, periphery. That's how you spell periphery. I don't know. The noise of the hall lit up for a moment, and though the wine was still shrieking and making the walls shudder, Will Will distinctly heard Chris say, "Hey, yeah, but how much longer? No one else can see this shit. I have to give it to him." The hall started again, but drowning out whatever response Chris might have gotten. Will had heard enough, though. The guy who had hired Chris in the first place, the dude who ordered the the very specific robbery, and may who may as well have pulled the trigger on Alex himself, wasn't there yet. Will tapped uh where some I don't fucking know shoulder, and he jumped, wiping around to glare at Will. Did Whipping around to glare at Will. Did you hear that? Will whispered. Yeah, Big Shot ain't here. Storm probably either held him up or killed him. So what should we do? Kill them all, then figure out what the fuck is going on and figure it out somewhere else. This building sounds like it's going to come down around our goddamn ears. Okay, so let's do it. Try not to hit Chris. The backpack is by his feet, and I still want to see yeah, and I still want to see to him myself. Plus, I highly doubt that he's armed. Shit, All right, I'm in. You take the guy on the left, I'll get the right, and then the middle. Before you start moving, lean your rifle against this box. They're pretty solid. Shoot through the torso. Don't try for the head. Jason took a last look, then turned back to him. One more thing. There's only the one door, so don't let anyone get to it. Ready? We'll place the dot at the center of the circle around over the center of the back of the banger on the left. It would be an easy shot, less than 100 feet and inside, so there would be no need to compensate for wind or distance. He just had to leave the dot where it was, let out the air from his lungs, and slowly squeeze the trigger. It wasn't like aiming at paper, and it wasn't even like shooting Rob had been earlier. When he made his dive for his pants, that had been a direct threat. This was quite literally shooting a man in the back. Will was easing his finger back on the trigger, letting pressure build on a gun he had never fired before. When, at the exact second that the hammer on his rifle punched the primer on the cartridge, the door they entered through opened. The second men coming in through the door hit the floor and were out of Will's view almost instantly. Jason had dropped his man, and Chris lay on the floor with the backpack next to him. The third banker, the one who Jason had planned to attack, second, was firing back at them with a pistol. Will was able to fire at him, but not accurately. It turned out that aiming a gun is quite a bit harder when it's quite a bit harder when your target is firing back. One of the men near the door tried to open it to leave, and Jason volleyed a pair of shots his way, dropping him to the floor through not though not from injury. Will tried to get the other banger back in his sights, but the man was running toward the door, making Chris the only living thing still in the middle of the warehouse. Chris, come on! Will screamed that Jason kept the men by the door honest about keeping their heads and guns down. Chris stood hesitating for just a moment and then began to sprint across the warehouse. Either side was likely much good for him at this point, but there must have been something he saw in Will and Jason that wasn't there in the other three. Pistol fire bucket from the door and Jason fired toward the position again. Two more quiet Two more quick shots. More pistol fire. Chris was almost to them blood blossomed on his when blood blossomed on his shirt. He was still moving when he was hit again and slid in a pile next to him, backpack still in hand. The blood drained from Chris, his heart pumping away in his chest, waiting for the memo it could take the that it could take the rest of the day off. He was trying to say something, but the gunfire was too loud and the blood on his lips still thick for Will to make any of it out. A crash of lightning met the occasion of his death. Thunder rumbling like cannon fire, and then came a noise unlike anything Will had ever heard before. The explosion began before I mean the explosion began behind them. Will only realizing that he should move as the lights went out and Jason was grabbing him. They were moving across the building. Buffet, what? Buffet by wind and noise as the top of the warehouse was torn off from the ground up and a burst of flame roared across the floor, shooting up the great blast of blue fire from cracks and holes in the cement floor. What was left of the floor, of the door, was covered in flames. Flame, the door flame itself collapsing. The door frame itself collapsing. Jason kept driving toward the door, ignoring the flames and dragging Will with him. He's going to kill us, Will thought in a flash of hallucin. Oh, Will thought in a flash of hallucinatory. Okay. Clarity as the flames engulfed the world across them. And then it was Will who was pulling Jason away from the door and the fire to the wall opposite of their shooting position. Wrong way, Will, Jason screamed, but the voice was small in Will's head and he ignored the words, continuing to haul Jason like a okay, haul Jason like a ordinary calf toward a wall while the fire built. Hold on. Alright, y'all. A wall while the fire built built around them, burning hotter by the second and stealing the oxygen from his lungs. There was a hole within the flame. There was a smell within the flames, an odor of burning chemicals, and almost, something almost erotic. I don't know. The fort, I don't know. Will had a hard time forcing. I mean, We've had a hard time figuring out, but he didn't hate the smell. It was just overpowering. Jason shoved him around a blast of purple flame that appeared concrete to Will's left. And then shit, to Will's left, and then there was nothing in front of them but a wall. Will put his left hand on Jason's shoulder and put Jason put his left hand on Jason's shoulder, the AR still clutched in his right, and shoved him into the wall, directly into it. Directly into a square of autumn, dived by two steel beams. Jason flew into it without resistance. resistance. Will jump Will jumping behind him into it. Jason landed in the snow and Will fell next to him. An autumn panel from the warehouse wall was smoldering underneath them, and Will rolled away from the heat the the surprise comfort of the wet snow. The flames had scorched his coat, took in the hair from his head, his eyebrows and scalp felt raw and sticky, and what chaff fed in the wind as noise from the from the collapsing building continues. Jason stood looking to Will like some Viking warrior. Smoke poured off his smoldering friend. The wind and ruins of the building added to the picture as Jason shuddered the AK-47 and fired 4 shots into the retreating black Cadillac SUV. Then the magazine was empty. The last round left the barrel and the bolt locked back. Ready for a new magazine, Jason dropped the gun and grabbed Will what remained of by what remained of the back of his coat, forcing him to stand. Okay, Jason said, grabbing his knees. Time to get our shit together. An explosion from behind them sent both men staggering. The storm was still exploding around them when things had settled down, at least as far as the distance. This thing, I don't know, this staggering building was concerned. Jason turned to him. Will, this is going to suck, but we need to get back to your brother and that gas station. Can you help me? Sure, what's wrong? Jason collapsed in his arms, then blood, what? Gurgling. What? These fucking words are stupid. From his mouth, more body heat rolling off his torso. Then Will could believe. He set his friend down onto the ground and saw for the first time that somehow Jason had taken Chris' backpack from the burning building. Will took and shouldered the backpack, then then ran back toward the building, back to where they left the trunk. I mean the chunk of autumn. Autumn. Oh, I've been saying autumn. Aluminum. I'm sorry, y'all. Reading half the fucking word. Aluminum from the wall that shoved Jason through. He dragged it back to Jason. Rode his rode his friend onto the metal and slapped him. The man's eyes coming alive with rage. Will lay his stolen AR-15 on Jason's chest. "You've got to stay awake," said Will. "You hold this while I pull you out of here. You got that?" Jason grunted something indistinguishably, and Will slapped him again. Jason's eyes came back iron, flicked with green and gold. "You hit me again," he said, "and I'll kill you. You fall asleep again, I'll leave you for death. Fuck you. Fuck you right back," said Will, pulling the sorry y'all. This fucking book crazy. Said Will, pulling the makeshift sled through the snow. "Fuck you very much. Keep that gun ready, you fucker." "Fuck you," said Jason, as Will moved them up the driveway. "This is all your fault. You're the one that knocked her up," said Will. "I guarantee it. Now stop telling me to fuck off and make sure that Caddy doesn't come back, bitch." "Fuck you," said Jason. "Loose it now, or at least somewhat." "Damn, my head hurts, Will." "I know, mine too. What what the fuck was in that place?" He stood his head. I mean, I said stood. He shook his head, loosening a fresh wave of pain. Doesn't matter. I'm getting us back to Isaac. I've got your back." Yeah, that was only one fucking. That was one chapter, and I got a lot more to go, y'all. Like, this shit irritating. Reading these big ass books, but make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. I'm not gonna hold y'all up. Try to keep these chapters short and simple while reading funny as hell. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, share my videos with the world. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers to start getting, I'm trying to get 500 subscribers so I can be eligible for a plaque or start getting money or both. So help me out. Share my videos with the world. And I love y'all. And I'll see y'all with the next chapter in another video. Bye.